Hi everybody, welcome back to my LinkedIn Lives. I'm Jasmine Navarro, certified wellbeing expert, working with educational institutions and companies, delivering workshops and talks all around family wellbeing. And as you know, every week I interview different experts who make a difference in people's lives. And today I'm super excited to be interviewing my very good friend of mine, Alan Hayes. Alan, so glad to have you here, finally. Can you tell us about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the invite and good to see you again. So my name's Alan Hayes. I run an organisation called Therapy Partners and also a charity called Rewrite Your Story. So I'm a systemic family therapist, retrained to become a therapist about 15 years ago. Prior to that, I used to run logistics businesses. So yeah, in sort of global sort of markets, really. Yeah, so I'm a systemic family therapist based in the UK. So we've got practice rooms in Kent and Dorset. And we've just opened up an offer in Spain as well, so we're working with the expat community. Yeah, and I'm a coach, but also a therapist as well. And my modality of therapy I tend to like is solution-focused and narrative, as well as systemic as well. And we work with a whole range of clients. So we work with children and young people in schools with the charity. We work with couples. I trained with Relate and had to do 450 hours of practice with them to become a Relate therapist. So yeah, couples relationships is one of my things.
Amazing. So, yeah, you've got so much experience and I'm very excited to talk to you about this topic. So you chose exploring a solution-focused and systemic therapy approach. What made you decide on this title for today?
I think I wanted, obviously there's a lot around solution-focused coaching, but I wanted to talk about the therapeutic aspect of it as well, and focusing on the word of Steve Stashaser and Imtu Kunberg. So that's back to 1984, originally set up in the States. So it's looking at what the client can do to help themselves in terms of moving forward with their lives as well. So we work with lots of different aspects of it. One of them is looking at the miracle question, which is probably something you use in coaching, and also working with
Tell us, because
so miracle question is
what's the difference between
in terms of miracle question. So you imagine, the client, you say to them, imagine the miracle's happened overnight and something's changed in your life, and it's like it's 2 years further ahead. What would need to change? It's a way of focusing on those thoughts and beliefs to actually look at change. And then working with exception is based on, so when you say to them, look, can you tell me a time when it was working in a different way? It's actually going on then. So it's looking reflectively back, but also forward as well. And also understanding that the client has the most of the solutions, they just don't know it yet. And one of the things that you do is lots of compliments as well. So rather than being prescriptive and probably in quite negative language, it's positivity as well. So looking at what strengths you have got, which ones you haven't really. So I love the work. It's great short term as well, so you can get away 6 to 8 sections to really make a difference with people as well. So it's quite effective.
I love that about the miracle question, because I heard about that the other day as well. So you just say to yourself, if you woke up the next day and a miracle had happened, what would it be? And then you just have a conversation about that.
And what would have changed? So the miracle happened overnight. So what would be different, and what would have changed? So then that gives you an idea of the framework moving forward, what you need to do with your life, really. So yeah, it's useful. It's quite powerful. I've used it quite a lot. So yeah, it's quite effective.
And let me just say hi Natural Fragrance Company. Lovely to have you here. And hi to anybody else who's joining. Please fill us with your questions or comments. We'll be happy to hear them. Yes. So Alan, so what's the difference then between solution-based therapy or coaching? Like, what is the difference?
With therapy, it's more at relational depth, so it'll be an aspect, as you tend to work integratively. So I originally trained psychodynamically at Kent, and then I went on and became integrative, and then looking with systemic. So trained with Institute of Family Therapy in the Tavistock. So spent probably 12 years, and I'm still training now, looking at just to improve, in terms of what you can offer as a practitioner. So yeah, so it's more relational depth as opposed to coaching. Coaching is solution focused in essence anyway. It's what we actually do. But yeah, so it's more relational, and we're looking at different aspects of therapy as well. So looking at psychodynamic, probably some elements of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And I quite like narrative. So narrative therapy was introduced by a guy called Michael White and David Epstein back in the 90s. And it's around storytelling. And one of the things we did when we set up the charity was look at how you could change your story. So with narrative, it's a lot of letter writing, emails, processing, journaling, really powerful. So that is it's a bit of a hybrid model, but I tend to work solution focused with some narrative aspects as well, and it's really effective in terms of support and solutions for the clients I work with as well.
So how do you do that then with the narratives? So what, you ask them to write?
Well, we get, well, it's just around, journaling is quite important, so it's looking what's going on in your life, perhaps reflecting back, reflecting forward, it's just a way to process sort of difficult thoughts sometimes by externalization. So you can basically get it out of your system and get it down onto some paper, then you've got something to look at what you can do to move forward, really. So there's loads of stuff on it. There's some stuff on, I've done some blogs we've got on Therapy Partners website. I can probably write something around narrative, and we can probably put it up there for people to look at, and perhaps some top 10 tips of working in a solution focused way. So give me a week or so and I'll write something out and reference it and put it out. So
brilliant. That sounds brilliant. But with the narrative, do you sort of guide your clients what to write, or do you just, because like when I journal, for example, for me it helps if I just journal whatever comes up,
because we're not being directive as such. It's the client's material, so it's their stuff, and they can put what they want to, it's their stuff, as opposed to us trying to impose our will onto people, which is not what we do in sort of counselling as such. So it's all the client's material. It's also being supportive as well. There's a really good video, it's quite an old one now, I think, by David Epstein. He worked with a young chap. It was in an institutional correction over in Sweden, and it's really powerful, and so there's probably things like that we can put on a blog. I'll get some together. And
but if you can find it, you can put it on the post as well.
I'll just write some. I'll try and find a video link or something as well. Yeah. So currently, we're really busy in terms of work with schools as well. And we one of the things that we did back in 2017, we were lucky to get some successful funding for the NHS to work with eating disorders. So we set up the charity after we did that, and after the pilot, and we're working with around 35 young people and families across the southeast of England, supporting young people and delivering CBTE, which is Chris Fairbairn's work for Oxford, which is NICE recommended evidence-based therapy. And we do support as well. We do support for families as well. So that's processes that we're using to help support. And we've seen demand increase massively since lockdown as well with that. So quite tricky for people at the moment. And we work, as you know, work in schools as well. We do some body confidence workshops. So the whole piece really, from children, young people, adults and families really.
Definitely. Well, because we worked together on the body confidence.
We did some confidence workshops over in some schools in Dorset. We
did. Absolutely loved it. And so if what would you say to somebody if when you say, so sorry, just to be clear, you've got solution focused and systemic therapy approach. What's the difference? Do they both come together?
Well, it's working in a pluralistic, integrative way. You use elements that the client actually needs. So systemic therapy started in the 50s, basically, and so that's working, looking at whole systems. So that the person is part of the whole system. So it's looking at family systems, society, socially constructed narratives. So it's looking at the whole systems in practice, and using that training that I did, to help families.
Right. Okay. And what would you tell somebody if they're not sure if do they need a coach? Would a coach benefit them, or would therapy or solution focused or systemic or a combination? I
guess it depends. There's still a massive stigma with mental health. So a lot of people will come to coaching thinking that's okay. But if someone mentions therapy or counselling, there's still some negativity around it. We get a lot of people that come for coaching that probably need therapy. And because I offer both, a lot of us offer both, we can work across both. It's been really clear in terms of boundaries and how you're actually working. So you may come along for a referral for coaching and realise that you probably need some more relational depth. So you suggest you look at some counselling before you can look at goal setting in terms of doing the coaching moving forward, really. And the family stuff, again, it's looking at it's all relational based stuff, so obviously looking at relationships if you're a married couple or a couple, and then you're looking at the family when you're involving the other family members as well. And that can be systemic therapy, can be done in groups, but also individually. You can work systemically with individuals as well in terms of the relationship with other people. So
And do you think people can just sort themselves out by themselves, or do you think if there's a problem, therapy is the solution?
I think if generally people are pretty resilient, pretty robust, and they know, what they can do to make things better. Sometimes when you're completely overwhelmed and you've got some elements of trauma that you just can't process, that's when you need to get some support.
Yeah. Hi, Jacob. Thank you for joining. Please let us know if you have any comments or questions. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much. There's so much to say, and I know you do help. Like you said, what's the youngest?
So we probably work with mostly adolescents. So from 9 onwards, really. Majority of our young people clients tend to be in sort of secondary school age, so teenagers, with all the stuff that's going on developmentally for them as well, plus society and socially constructed narratives and pressures of social media and peer pressure and everything else. So that's a big part of our work, and we work with various academies and schools. I think, and we're supporting teachers now since lockdown. There's been a whole pressure on teachers as well. A lot of them are struggling, so we're doing some support for various schools and academic universities and colleges as well. So yeah.
What kind of support are you offering teachers?
So we're offering some coaching, we're offering some one-to-one therapy, we're doing some reflective practice groups. So we do some head of year groups with a couple of schools, whereby we just sit down and process and look at what's going on for them as a group, and we're running those we started them in lockdown actually online. And then we've gone back into a hybrid model, which is in person, but also online as well, because that's more flexible for people if you're working during the day. And they're really helpful, so the groups are formed, they're really sort of the storming stage now. And just looking at what the effects being a teacher has on you and personally, and looking at how you can support each other and just process some of the things that go on and some of the stresses of being a teacher in the modern world, really.
And what are the biggest problems, do you think, that teachers are coming with?
I think just workplace stress. I think the pressure. I think trying to be a teacher, they expect to be a social worker, a mental health professional, a practitioner. There's so much, and because services, it's not the NHS's fault. There's so much pressure and reduced funding that trying to get a referral, for example, into children and adolescent mental health services with CAMHS. If you're 15, for example, based in Kent, you might wait 2 years. So by the time you actually get, you'll get the referral quite quickly. And then you maybe put into a waiting list. So you're trying to manage quite complex presentations as a teacher. And there's not there's support, but there's not. The pastoral leads take on an awful lot of difficult things they're dealing with, as well as trying to be a teacher on top. So a lot of it is just pressure, work-life balance, looking at ways of trying to improve your mental health, or you just maintain it by looking at what you can do for you, like with exercise, looking things to do that are positive, really. So just looking at that, but also in the group format, just sharing the experiences experientially with the members as well, and then you can support each other as well. It's really powerful, and we've got some really good outcomes from that as well.
So you do life skills as well? You teach life skills?
Yeah, we do.
Sometimes it's just simple things, isn't it? Sometimes
really simple stuff. And because we're working system in the relational side of it as well, so looking at relationships, obviously at home, at school, with pupils, just generally looking at that and giving some tips and skills and some strategies to sort of deal with it as well.
Brilliant. And Jacob says, how do we as coaches know when we have to refer our clients to therapy? It's always emphasized to do so. However, practicality might be a bit tricky. Thank you very much, Jacob. What do you think, Alan?
I think it's just being really honest, just saying, obviously we're working on the coaching and these are the models and there's a goal setting. There's one of the two things that may have come up in the sessions that we may be helpful for you to speak to a therapist. So just being honest, really, and saying, look, put the question out there and let the client decide if they want to do it. Don't be directional with it.
Okay, yeah, because Jacob's saying when should we refer them? Not how, not.
Okay, so if you're your gut's telling you that there's probably some issues here that are probably not really relevant in terms of the coaching relationship, so you may be working on those goals with that, and then you could look at possibly referring them on when you've completed having a break and saying, look, there's some things that might be helpful to process in a therapeutic way. So it's just obviously knowing the client really and what works for them. And also being discreet and being appropriate as well with it. And saying, definitely. I'm just going to give them to a therapist, just managing that transition, as it were.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. Listen to your gut instinct, because if you just feel, hang on, this is beyond my expertise, I don't know if I can. I think when you have a doubt like that as well, it's best, isn't it?
Yeah, and also look at risk as well. So if there's some red flags there, then look at how you manage that risk as well, and how you keep the client and yourself safe as well.
Yes, yes. Jacob says, I like that. Thanks. Thank you very much, Jacob.
No problem. Thanks,
Brilliant
Jacob.
question. Brilliant question.
Yeah, well,
Being honest. Yeah, being honest. The best answers are always the simple ones, aren't they?
Just go with your gut feeling. I use that quite a lot in terms of my practice. You know, it's just your body's telling you. You know, it's just trying to process something. You know, so yeah.
But I guess actually, as a coach, we should be more. But sometimes you don't know.
Interestingly enough, Jasmine, on Saturday we're doing a introductory session, the difference between coaching and counselling. So what I could do, obviously I think we're fully booked with that. We may be running another one. We may be able to do it online, but I'll get some of the notes or something like that, and perhaps a handout to look at. We can post that up as well, so people can look at the differences.
Yeah, please do.
Because I'm not running the course. My colleague Andy's doing it, so I haven't seen a copy of it yet. But we're running it on Saturday morning, I think. Yeah.
No, please do, because that's really interesting as well. And if you have any links to anything, just put them in the comments as well.
I'll do some blogs, and then we can get that posted up, or we'll put it to the website and so onto my LinkedIn. We've got our news blogs on our Therapy Partners webpage, so if people sign up to that, we can obviously access that, and it's all free content as well.
Put the link in the comments on the post, and then people can just sign up.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I think it's really interesting though, because especially, obviously, if you're in the industry, you sort of know the difference more or less. But for people outside, it's so confusing, isn't it?
Like, it's really complicated. And all you want to do is you feel like you need to get some help, and you don't know where to go and what route do I go. Exactly. We've still got the stigma around mental health still, which is still, difficult for people, and they're just trying to do the best, just to sort of move on with their lives, really. So
For me, I always say that therapy is more about the past and coaching is more about the present and future.
That's a good starting point. Yeah. So therapy tends to process and look at reflecting on the past, but also looking forward. So goals for therapy are important as well. So it's stage 3, when you're at that stage, you're looking at setting goals for the future once you've processed and dealt with some of the difficult emotions and feelings, I suppose. And you work more at relational depth than you do in coaching as well. So coaching tends to be solution focused and positivity. And looking forward, like you say. So there's different elements, really. Yeah.
I think it's great to have both if you can.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it takes a long time to train. It's expensive, but it's
exactly.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you worked a lot with adolescents then, and so what are the real problems happening now with adolescents?
So there's an awful lot in terms of being a teenager. So there's all the neurodevelopmental stuff around that. It's some really good stuff that Dan Siegel's done in terms of neuroscience. It's really helpful, and we've only known so much about development. In terms of neuroscience, it's only been the last 15 years. So it's looking at what's going on in terms of brain chemicals and everything else. But just in terms of society, we've got an awful lot of peer pressure. Where we are in Kent, we've got selective schools, so we've got grammar schools. So you've got, lots of issues around perfectionism. Eating disorders are a big part, self-harm, presentation, but just general anxiety. And one of the biggest things at the moment is exam stress. So people just really worried about exams, and feeling that if they fail the exam, it's life-changing, their life's going to be over. So it's really difficult. So anxiety and stress, eating disorders.
Yes.
And then relationships as well. That's a big part of it. So it's a mixture of things, really. Do you
think the eating disorders are linked to exam stress, or they're completely separate?
Well, it's a way of coping. It's a negative way of coping, but it's a way of coping. It's like medicating. You withdrawing food. Some people drink. People take drugs or whatever else. It's just a coping strategy. It's just negative coping strategy. So a lot. Exam stress is a big part of it. That creates lots of anxiety. And then we just started working. We're doing some early pilots with skills around ASD and autism as well. So yeah.
No, brilliant. No, you seem to be doing a lot. So what advice would you give to parents who, what are the signs that they should look out for, like that their child maybe could see a therapist or a coach? Or
I just think things change. So if you notice that the child's becoming withdrawn or they're not the usual self, so just again look at the gut feeling. If you think something's going on, just ask the question, try and be supportive. don't so that's it. You need to see a therapist and just send them, because you need to be motivated to change and wanting to go to get therapy anyway, you know, otherwise it's not going to work. So just as a parent, just be observant, really look at any changes, you know, if the child's being quiet, spend a lot of time in the room, you know, just generally things you feel like something's not right, you know, perhaps again look at that gut instinct.
And what can the parents do you think? Like, is there anything they can actually do?
There are some services around, so there's a lot of charities that offer support, and we work with a number of schools, or we're embedded in the schools, so we offer therapy in schools, and we've got counsellors and therapists working in schools, actually on site during the day, so people can be referred during lessons or break time. So that works really well, because the barriers to therapy are really low, so you don't have to go anywhere, it's actually on site. So look at what the school can offer, you know. Also look at, you know, things like National Counselling Society. They've got a list of members, the BACP, that accredited professionals, you know, can actually deliver support in a safe way.
So seek professional help.
BACP, NCS, etc.
But no,
and
thanks.
again, you can look at our website.
Is there anything the parents can actually do, though, like in their behaviour, or some things they can say, or not?
I think trying to normalise stuff if you can, you know, not overreact, because if you get a reaction, you know, if someone's, you know, so the young person's, you know, wanting to be honest and try and disclose something, and they get a negative reaction, they're probably not going to say it again. So it's just being listening, really listening, not judging, and being supportive, you know, and realising that it's tough, you know, it's temporary, you know, exam stress, you know, the exams, but also looking at revision schedules. So if they're doing really heavy revision, look at times that you can have some time out for you and do something positive, you know. So it's just that balance, really.
Yeah. And communication, it sounds
like. Yeah, the bit communication's key. Yeah.
Active listening, non-judgment. It's all
the
it's all the
same stuff. Yeah.
It's all the usual stuff. It's all it is. But is there anything else you would say, you know, advice to, you know, people thinking about therapy, or like what else?
It's a difficult thing, because, you know, it's just like taking that first step, you know, that's the hardest thing. So pick up the phone, go onto a website, send an email, and it's a lot less traumatic than you think it may be, you know. Just give it a go. If you've got something that you need to work on, and you've been sitting back and thinking, you know, if it's constantly in your thoughts and it's affecting your day-to-day life, getting some help is really important. Yeah.
Hi, David. How are you doing? So David says, have you noticed an increase in children's mental health needs at school since COVID, Alan?
Massively. So we've seen a 38% increase in eating disorders, and that's across the piece. If you look at NHS, 38%, yeah, across. And then lots of anxiety. There's a lot of young people that didn't go to school, we're working online, haven't gone back to school, so there's been increase in homeschooling as well, so it's huge. We've seen and our referrals since official lockdown ended at back end of sort of like 21, 22 have gone up probably about 28% as well. So so it's been huge. I think just that loss of opportunity, you know, we're social animals, and we're kids stuck at home, you know. Okay, they're online is their thing, but people have lost things like prom nights. They've not had their exams as such in their format, so they'll be judged as a generation that got a pass because they couldn't do their exams. So it's a huge impact, and we're still feeling that now.
No, thanks, Anne. Thanks, David, for a great question. And how, like, what is the youngest, like, children who have eating disorders, like, because
we work with CBTE, which in terms of the model, it's really sort of 15 plus. That's the therapy, which is evidence-based. So ahead of that, before that age, you know, we've heard of young people sort of 8 and 9 possibly presenting, but
that's really sad. And what about social media then? What do you think?
If you look on my blog, about 2 weeks ago, I did a piece on social media effects and some research on that as well. So it's a part of life now. It's a part of a teenager's life and everyone's life. So there are some really positive things. It's just, again, it's just, you know, there's some really harrowing stories. I know we had Molly Russell and the way that, you know, she unfortunately she lost her life, and her dad's campaigning for her, but, you know, she was trolled by algorithms. But there's some good stuff on there as well. You know, it's just like two parts really, some positivity, but it's just like as a parent, just trying to manage that
Yeah.
If you stop it, the kids will find a way of being on there anyway. It's just having those conversations and being open and honest. And
Exactly.
there's the impacts in terms of body image. You know that you did the workshop for us, so the impacts of all that, and what happens, how people are sort of brushing their photographs and images and social comparison with everybody else. So there's been an impact. Yeah, it definitely has.
Yeah, but like you said, if you're coming from a healthy mindset and you've got a healthy, balanced family with effective communication, then you're going to probably approach social media in a different way, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's not. Yeah, it's how we use it. Yeah, you're right. Totally get that. I was going to say something and I've completely slipped my mind.
I do that quite a lot as well.
Oh no, that was it. Going back to Molly. I mean, I know that's because I think it was her dad actually that said 4 school-aged children commit suicide a week in the UK. It's incredible. Yeah, when you think about it, it's so sad. But so we haven't got much time left. Does anybody else want to ask any questions, or do you have any comments? Please let us know. Alan, what else would you like to tell us about this solution-focused and systemic therapy approach?
I think we've covered most of it in half an hour. We've done really well, actually, I think.
But we have.
Minutes, so just bring them up. And and I'm happy to sort of get some stuff written and posted, and give me a week
Please
or so,
do.
and then we'll get some stuff out. And then if people have got any questions, you can contact us via the website. The contact page is on there. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find me at Alan Hayes on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yeah, how can people find you?
Yeah, so just put Alan Hayes into LinkedIn, you'll find me. There's only me, and my spelling's Heyes, so that's just quite useful. Everyone spells it wrong. It's on there. So yeah.
And Jacob says Mental Health Awareness Month for next month. Is it next month already?
Yeah, I think it is May, isn't it? Is it? Yeah.
Oh yes, May. Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. Are you doing anything for then?
We will be, yeah. We do quite a lot on our social media feeds as well. So we've got Bilal who does quite a lot of our content, and we'll probably do something around as well. We'll do some blogs and stuff. And then we normally, so we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn as therapy partners. So follow us on there, and there's lots of content that comes through. And most of the stuff I tend to reference it as well. So you've got papers you can read. I tend to do a reading list. I'll post some books that help people to look at as well. So
Brilliant. Can you put all of those links on this post afterwards so people can
sure I will.
Follow you on Instagram?
I'll probably get someone to do it because I'm not that technical, but we'll make sure.
No, thanks, Alan. And is there anything else you would like to say before we go?
Just thanks for the opportunity to have a chat, really, and just explain a bit about what we do. And if you want me to come back in the future, let me know.
Definitely, of course. You're so knowledgeable. I mean, there's so many things to talk about on this subject, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, but no, thank you so much, Alan, for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for your questions, and I will see you again next week.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Take care.